Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? I'm seeing there's a lot of people joining from many places all over the world. We have people from Switzerland, from India, from Hyderabad, from New Jersey, USA. And I'm also seeing some familiar names and faces connected in YouTube and LinkedIn. And first thing I wanted to thank you for being there today. Today we have a really interesting session. It's an Ask Me Anything session called Native Integration with Data Cloud, in which we have three amazing experts and product managers at Salesforce, which will be answering all your questions. So first, let me remind you that Salesforce is a publicly traded company, and this means that you should make purchasing decisions based on the features that are generally available. But most of the features that we are going to talk about today are already generally available, but our product managers, of course, may do some forward-looking statements. And with that, let me introduce today's experts. We have with us Diana. Diana, do you want to say hello to the audience and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm coming from California, so it's morning where I am, and I have my Cody coffee. I'm a product manager on the Flow team, the Flow Builder team. So I'm here to talk about Data Cloud and Flow together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to know everything about Data Cloud and Flow integration. Next, we have Amrinder. Amrinder, hello.
Hi, Alba. Hello, everyone. I am the product manager for Data Cloud Enrichments, and I'm based out of Seattle.
Fantastic. Enrichment is a great integration feature that you can use and from which we're going to learn everything about today. And finally, we have Minhaj. Minhaj, do you want to say hello to the audience?
Hi, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. This is Minhaj. I'm a product manager for Prompt Builder in Agentforce and really excited to share with you some cool features that we have.
Fantastic. So, as a reminder, if you want to keep the conversation going, we have a digital platform where you can continue asking questions to our experts and to other experts in the community, and you can join the community using this link. And this event is being streamed on YouTube and LinkedIn. If you have questions, put them there because we have some folks also helping with gathering all your questions so I can ask them to our product managers today. And make sure to connect with us in all our other channels such as the developer blog or Twitter or Facebook. With that, I'm going to leave Amrinder start presenting and talking about data cloud enrichment. And meanwhile, I will be seeing your questions in the chat. Keep them coming, please, because we will have the Q&A section as soon as our experts finish presenting. There you go.
Thanks, Alba. So real quick, I just want to give a quick overview of what Data Cloud enrichments are and also set some context on what Data Cloud is for those of you who are not aware. And this will set the pace for other presenters here who will also talk about some of the Data Cloud related features. But if you can move to the next slide. Okay, so this is supposed to be a quick overview of what Data Cloud is and what Data Cloud enrichments are at the same time. So Data Cloud is a hyperscale data engine Salesforce has positioned for all the CRM customers. And it's capable of processing trillions of records at lowest possible latency and powers your trusted AI agents as well. It can unify and harmonize just data from within your org, as well as external data from web stores and data lakes to create amazing wealth of insights, which can become actionable in amazing ways. So this is meant to be just like a quick overview of what Data Cloud is. And we hopefully, this will help ground the conversations that we are having. So quickly walking through this together, we on the left side, we first connect all of your data sources where, whether that's your data, your customer 360 data, third-party data from all different sources. And we do this with an extensive library of out-of-box connectors. Once we ingest and bring all of this data into Data Cloud, we prepare and transform it into a new view. And with clicks, not code, we harmonize all of this data, no matter what the format, into a common data model. That's really the power of Data Cloud. And you don't even have to sometimes ingest this data. You can bring your own lakes of sources, like the ones that are mentioned on the left. Now, Data Cloud enrichments is on the right, on the activate phase of your customer 360 data. It provides ability for Salesforce customer to experience the true potential of Data Cloud in their CRM applications, taking their end user experience to a whole new level with a unified view of the customer data. So, uh, you know, Data Cloud enrichments is native functionality in the platform. So it can power flows. For example, copy field can power flows in platform, and it can power your trusted AI as well, because everything is natively built into the Salesforce platform. Um, can we move to the next slide, please? So Data Cloud One, for those of you who are not familiar, in October of this year, we released the GA of Data Cloud One, and now you can use enrichments in your Salesforce org from another Data Cloud enabled Salesforce org locally, along with many other Data Cloud features supported in Data Cloud One. And this is a really powerful feature which allows you to have all of these enhanced activated capabilities to bring this data as or make this data actionable in your Salesforce orgs, uh, just by setting up a Data Cloud org and ingesting all of this Salesforce data in that org, or your external data in your Data Cloud org. We can move to the next slide. And this is talking about direct relationships. We had our existing account, contact, and lead objects supported since Winter 24 release last year, but now we are able to we are in the process of generalizing Data Cloud enrichments to other objects with what we call as direct relationship support. Um, an example of this is that you have, for example, the vehicle telemetry data, uh, associating that to a vehicle object in Salesforce. We are also expanding or generalizing copy field enrichments. Uh, we'll be supporting a lot more objects for both related list enrichments and copy field enrichments, uh, and uh, and we'll be supporting many other Salesforce objects pretty soon. So things like opportunity, etc., will also be supported. Uh, Data Cloud. If you can move to the next slide, please. Yeah, Data Cloud just got even better with Data Cloud sandboxes. So this is another GA feature that we just recently released, and it's an ultimate tool for building, testing, and deploying with confidence with Salesforce and Data Cloud. This just gives you an overview of how enrichments work with Data Cloud. So this is really supposed to be a quick overview of enrichments and how things tie together with the whole Data Cloud ecosystem, and just gives you a taste of what's possible with Data Cloud. And one key thing to note here is that in Data Cloud sandboxes, uh, we already support enrichments as of this release, but we will also support something we call as sandbox mergeback, which is taking all of these enrichments and a lot of capabilities that Data Cloud has and deploying it back to your production org, so you can test everything, make sure that everything works properly, and then deploy it back to the production org. this is really powerful. It's going to be, powering the next set of experiences for developers and ISVs, et cetera, et cetera. So this is, something that I just want to call out and just gives you a taste of what that is. With that, I'll hand off to, I believe, Diana.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Amrinder. That was a great overview, and I think it helps set a lot of context. So I'm here to talk about flow. Go to the next slide. This might be familiar to many of you. Let me know in the chat if it is or isn't. But just to kind of give an overview, especially if we have developers on the call who don't spend as much time in the low-code world, Flow Builder is our low-code platform of choice or low-code tool of choice on the Salesforce platform. And it allows you to build triggered automation, interactive automation that mixes our screen flows. So kind of you can configure with clicks, not code, visual forms that walk through human-centered kinds of automation, as well as flow orchestrations, which kind of combine all these things together to let you create end-to-end processes that encompass both of them. So at a very high level, Flow Builder is your low-code way to build automation. Can get into more details, but I think that's probably familiar for a lot of our viewers. So if we go on to the next slide, let's talk about what Data Cloud and Flow look like together. So I sort of think about this as very parallel to what Flow already does with our CRM objects today. So sometimes flows want to access that information just to read it, just to maybe build some logic based on information in the system. Sometimes they want to push new information to the data in the system. And sometimes they want to be watching the system to see what's changing or what's happening and then trigger automation based off of that. And that's kind of roughly how these three features map to those things for Data Cloud as well. So we have Data Cloud triggered flows that's watching the data in Data Cloud to see what's changing. We have the ability to get data from Data Cloud when we want to, just sort of pull in information to supplement our automation. And then we also have the ability to send data to Data Cloud via Flow. I will say that's, I think, a lower priority use case when we're talking about Data Cloud as opposed to more transactional types of automation. So I'm not going to get as much into that. But for completeness sake, I did want to say you can also call those ingestion APIs that Amrinder talked about through your flow as well if you want to. We do find people use that, I would say, less than the other methods. So let's talk about Data Cloud triggered flows first. So these are going to function a lot like any record change flow that you might be familiar with for our regular CRM objects. It can watch both Data Cloud DMOs as well as your calculated insights. It cannot watch your streaming insights because those are happening too quickly, but it can trigger based on conditions when those are updated. What you can then do within that, and we see a lot of times, is people then maybe call back into CRM. So they might be updating their Salesforce records. They might want to kind of keep that data synchronized, or they can also call or invocable actions. Flow has a really rich ecosystem of existing actions out there. We have people in the community that build these actions, as well as pre-built ones that we're actually adding to pretty significantly in the coming year with our partnership with MuleSoft. So it's a way to sort of connect to the wide world pretty easily by monitoring changes in Data Cloud and then sending it out wherever you'd like it to go. We've also added debug support. So that wasn't there originally, but Data Cloud triggered flows now support debug as well. And just some examples of the kinds of things that you can use with this Data Cloud triggered flow. I find it helpful, right? Conceptually, you can watch for any change, but what kinds of things might we want to do? So there's some IoT use cases that we can see coming in. So potentially you have these large amounts of data streams coming in from your devices, Internet of Things. Those would be coming into Data Cloud. And then if something flags in that system, my laundry machine broke or something like that, you could then create a support ticket or something like that in Flow. A lot of the kind of sales, customer 360 type use cases that Data Cloud is so good at unifying and organizing to take some of those more nebulous things that might not be captured in your CRM system yet, because it's just like they're clicking on a website, they're doing things like that, but funneling that in to either, again, creating an object or doing things like notifications, things like Slack, just sort of messaging to let your, say, sales reps know. And then we have a pretty strong partnership with marketing. So there's a lot that you can do around Data Cloud and Flow and pushing things like large batch emails out, as well as some of these more specific things that you might do with triggered flows. Like if the customer does a specific behavior, then we might offer them something extra. So that's a lot of what you can do with Data Cloud triggered flows, but let's talk a little bit also about the get record side. So now you're back in your regular flow universe on CRM, doing things like your record triggered flows, which is something we see a lot. You can now use get records, not just to get records from your CRM. You can see in the picture, we now distinguish, did you get your records from Salesforce CRM or did you get your records from Data Cloud? So it's just an option as soon as you go into get records to choose one or the other. This is available across all flow types. But again, this is the kind of thing we might see in record triggered flows. So when contact is created or updated, I might want to check on Data Cloud to see if that person is a unified individual and maybe there's a phone number that we could pull, things like that. And so then I can get that record from Data Cloud and then act on that or update my CRM data more. A couple quick tips or gotchas. If you are doing record triggered flows, you might be used to doing data operations in the run immediately path, because that's what we recommend for CRM data. Because Data Cloud is the separate system, you will need to use the run asynchronously or a scheduled path, again, because that's going to take longer. It's not going to happen in the same transaction. And we are doing more to support some of the collection operations, the more complex collection operations that you can do in Flow, and make sure those all work with Data Cloud object collections as well. But you can't create variables for them. So there's some limitations in terms of adding and removing things from collections to be aware of as well. And with that, if you want to get hands-on with this and actually just try it out for yourself, but it's not set up in your org, we do have a trailhead that walks through all of this in a lot of detail and also has some hands-on challenges. So I think that's a great way to get your hands dirty if you want to try it out. And with that, I'll pass it off to Minhaj to talk about AI. Exciting things.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Diana and Amrinder. Hey, everyone. Once again, this is Minhaj Khan. I'm excited to tell you about using Data Cloud within Prompt Builder with the wonderful world of generative AI. So to give you a quick overview of what does Prompt Builder do? So Prompt Builder is a platform that allows you to integrate all of your data that is living in your org or coming from Data Cloud and match that with the models that we give you through the secure gateway, through the trust layer, making sure that all the data that's going through to the language model is going to be toxicity free, secure, it's not going to have bias, and it's going to be masked as well if you have private information. And ultimately putting that all together in the in the flow of your work, inside of your UI, where your users are working and your employees are working, and give these incredible generative AI experiences. So Prompt Builder brings together your data, the language models, and the flow of the work of every user to give you these generative AI experiences. Next slide. So here's just an overview of the features that Prompt Builder specifically enables. So we talked about how it enables you to have trusted generative AI with ease. Firstly, we give you a lot of cool turnkey solutions that come out of the box. So for example, if you want to write a sales email, we give you out of the box prompt templates that allow you to follow up on a lead or initiate a cold email and so on. And with service replies, if you have a service agent, they're going to be able to ground all of the information from a chat that they're talking with a customer who has an issue, and then ground all of the information that's coming from, for example, knowledge articles. And using the power of semantic search or RAG, you're able to create a tailored and unique and relevant response to every single service conversation that your service agents are having. And to wrap up the portion of how does Prompt Builder work, here's actually a snapshot of the product inside of the platform. So what you're able to do is you're able to create all of your prompt instructions where you provide the instructions to the language model saying, for example, you're a salesperson, you're going to write an email, or you're a service employee and you're going to respond to a case and so on. Second, you add all the grounding data. This is all of the rich context that is needed for the prompt to perform well and to give a very tailored and relevant response for that interaction. And this is where Data Cloud comes in, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about how do you actually bring in Data Cloud, data model objects, and data graphs so that your prompts and your generative AI experiences are going to be very tailored and focused to that use case. Third, You can also choose the model that you want to use. And fourth, you can test with sample data just to see how the model is going to perform, how your data is going to perform before you actually deploy it into production with all of your live customers and employees. Awesome. So with that said, we want to talk about Data Cloud and how do you integrate Data Cloud with Prompt Builder. So we're excited to share that just this week or early next week, we're going to be launching this functionality where you can natively integrate your data model objects directly into Prompt Builder. So before today, there's a few ways you can get your DMOs into your prompt templates. You could use the data enrichments framework that Amrinder talked about. You can also use the flow framework that Diana talked about. And being able to ground with flows inside of Prompt Builder is going to continue to work, and you can have hyper flexibility in the kind of data in the segmenting and slicing and dicing you want to do. But now with DMOs directly embedded in the flow of Prompt Builder, what we enable you to do is, as you can see on the screenshot, when you create a new prompt template, you can actually not only select your core objects like account, contact, opportunity, lead, and so on, you can also now select the data model objects that you have set up in Data Cloud. This means that all of the third-party data that you've ingested into Data Cloud, you've created data streams, you've harmonized them, and you've embedded them into data model objects, you can now pull those DMOs directly into your prompt template as inputs. And then from there, you're going to be able to select all of the fields and the values and so on of those DMO records and have a rich prompt template that's going to be able to pull in all of the data from your customer 360 at every touch point for your engagements. And secondly, we also have data graphs. So as you know, data graphs is a way for you to be able to create an entity that has a 360 view of engagements that you want to track. So for example, let's say you have shopping cart engagement data or marketing engagement data from Shopify and other third-party services. You can now ingest all of that and create a data graph where it's going to have a unified profile of a specific customer. And if you wanted to add more data from different streams that is coming from different pipelines, you can put all of that together into a single data graph that goes beyond what DMOs can do. And now, once again, starting later this week and early next week, we're going to GA this functionality where you can bring data graphs into the prompts natively as well without having to go through Apex or Flow or any middle layer there. And what's going to be available is when you go into the resource menu, for example, you have your current objects like account and contact. Within the resource menu, when you go into account, you're going to see a section where it says data graphs. And when you go into that, it's going to pull in all of the relevant data graphs that are available for the account entity. And once you put that there, at runtime, when this prompt template is going to be used, when it gives you a specific account, when the prompt template is going to resolve, it is going to pull in that data graph, and all of the rich context that is available in JSON format is going to be sent over to the language model. And we've seen that the language model actually performs really well when it comes to JSON structured information, and it's going to give you a tailored response back. And there we have it with Data Cloud and DMOs supported in Prompt Builder starting soon.
Fantastic. So thank you so much, all of you, for sharing all this information about these features. You saw that all the features are GA, with the exception of the prompt builder features, which are becoming GA in a week or so. So this is something that you can get your hands on and start using as of today. And we're going to be resolving all your questions for Data Cloud enrichments, for Data Cloud and Flow, all the capabilities that you can use on one direction and the other direction, and all your questions about how to integrate Data Cloud into Prompt Builder. I wanted to add here that we also wanted to have the Apex PM in this call, but he couldn't make it, unfortunately. But if you have questions about integrating Data Cloud records or objects, data model objects, data lake objects into the platform with Apex, here we have some people that can possibly also help with those questions. And with that, I'm going to stop screen sharing, and we're going to start with the questions. We have already a lot of good questions coming through the chat. And I'm going to start with a question because we last talked about prompt builder. I'm going to start with a question about prompt builder. Okay, so this question is for you, Mihash. And the question is from Emma on LinkedIn. And the question is, can you share more on dynamic retrievers?
Sure, that's a good question. So dynamic retrievers is a way for us to be able to ship out of the box prompt templates with retrievers that we provide to be able to use that functionality. So it's basically a construct that allows the teams that we have who want to ship out of the box functionality, for example, with service replies, to be able to plug in a retriever at runtime in your org. Now, the reason we need to do this dynamically is because we know that the search retrievers that are available with Data Cloud and with Einstein or Agentforce Studio, they need a search index inside of your home org. And that search index is depending on the data model objects and your local data that's in your home org. When we ship a retriever out of the box, this retriever needs to operate on a search index and do the vector search operation and the semantic search on the search index. But when we ship that retriever, we don't have that search index for every individual customer. For that reason, what we ship is what we call a dynamic retriever, where the dynamic retriever is kind of a placeholder where we give you the prompt template, we have the dynamic retriever inside of it. When it lands in your org, you get to select, or we automate the process of choosing the retriever that's actually going to be plugged in to that prompt template and generally be used across platform as well. So that's where we have the dynamic retriever functionality that it came out in pilot recently, and it's going to be GAing in a while as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very clear. I hope. Okay, our next question is from David. I know David. He's the developer group leader in Barcelona, and he asked these questions before the event started in the LinkedIn event, and he's really interested in this topic because he's asking this question again. He's interested in understanding how to connect Notion and Data Cloud. There is no native connector in Data Cloud, and he would like to know this. So I'm not sure if the PMs that we have here today, David, can respond to your question. I will let them talk. But if they don't know the right response, then what we are going to do is to respond your question asynchronously because it's not strictly related to today's topics, but we can find the right person to respond afterwards. Any of you would like to respond to David?
Yeah, I can take that question. So,
Okay.
Alba, it's not clear as to what is the use case that they're trying to solve, but I can think of two scenarios what they're trying to do, right? So they might be trying to connect. Let's say I think there is Notion for Enterprise. Probably they're trying to connect their whole enterprise Notion data to Data Cloud. And this would definitely need a Notion specific connector, which I don't think that it exists today. But we do provide, SDKs for making our own connector. Those kind of capabilities do exist. If they just want to connect their personal Notion database, I'm also a Notion user, so use it for personal purposes. Then you can either sort of take your data in Notion, that use the unstructured data import feature in Data Cloud, or you can sort of export that database as a CSV or some sort of a key value store kind of a format or an XML format, just to make it very generic, and then import that through the S3 connector that Data Cloud has. You can just upload that data through your S3 bucket or Amazon S3 bucket and import it in Data Cloud. So that's a couple of ways that I can think of how we can solve this problem.
So I see George commented specifically, I think some of the things you just talked about, pushing data from Notion, and I think maybe it says Notion articles and then using data in Agentforce. So I'm guessing that sort of like maybe Notion has your help content or sort of a database of information that you then want to kind of funnel into your AI solution. So it sounds like that's kind of the use case. So yeah, I don't know if Minhaj, you have any thoughts about kind of that other end, but I think, yeah, Amrinder, you covered the potential import or export into Data Cloud.
Okay, thank you for those insights, David. If not, we can follow up asynchronously. Then I'm going to continue with Amrinder because you talked about data spaces, and there is one question related to that maybe you know the response to. Is, are there plans for supporting more than one data space in sandboxes soon?
Basically, I would have to defer this question to the Sandbox PM in particular, but I think there are obviously plans for supporting more than one data spaces in a sandbox, but again, just from purely from perspective of what sandboxes are used for, typically, we we want everything to be packaged into a default data space. So I think there may be some reasoning behind just supporting one data space at that point. So that may be the reason why we just have one data space. But again, this is not a specific question that I can effectively answer without the Sandbox PM chiming in that what is the roadmap of that supporting more than one data space. But I think the whole concept or key takeaway is that Data Cloud in general would like you to target all your packages, and those packages do get installed in the default data space in your home org.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for your response, Amrinder. Emma, we can also follow up asynchronously with this question if it was not totally clarified, and we can find the Sandbox PM to chime in as well. Okay, the next question, it's more like a generic question, is from Asad Al-Asal. And the question is, how does native integration with Data Cloud align with future trends in data management and customer experience?
It's a good question. It's very broad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the wider story around data management that we're seeing is just the growing complexity of all the different systems and all the different data. I mean, that's a lot of what Data Cloud is trying to solve, is just how big of a challenge data management is. And I think on the platform side, we're talking about kind of platform integration. We're both a source and a receiver of a lot of that data and part of that. So I think a lot of what we're thinking about is how to infuse all of that data at any point in the customer experience, right? Again, we have this in now AI coming in, we have this in, say, our screen flows and our lightning pages, things like that, as we're talking about how we build out experiences. So it all just sort of, I think, blends together. And so, yeah, I would say our goal is to kind of be everywhere with all the things to serve whatever trends might come, because it's keeping up with the exact trends is hard to do, but being in a place to allow you to adapt and pick up trends as they're useful for your use case. Things like AI is certainly the new hot trend right now. But I think more broadly as a platform, it's about trying to be everywhere to give you those tools to then capitalize as things come out. So that's a thought I had. I don't know. Amrinder, Minhaj.
Yeah. I think as Diana mentioned, right, we want to meet you where your data is at, right? um, you the power of the Salesforce ecosystem is in the metadata layer and all the applications that people have built over the years. And this is, like a key differentiator why, uh, we want to make sure that, if you have made investment over the year in your data lake or data warehouses, those are able, you are able to get those connected to your Salesforce org so that you can, flow all of this information, or that customer 360 view throughout. Does not matter what your system of record is or where this data is actually stored. So the general idea is that bringing all of those data sources together, and then um, powering that application layer that Salesforce already has, powering that metadata that things tap into as far as flows and prompt builder and other capabilities in the Salesforce ecosystem are concerned. And then not sort of be bound or shackled with things that bringing your investments that you've already made in all of these data lakes. For example, if you have Snowflake data, you want to have the same data available in Salesforce as well, and vice versa. So with all the federation features that Data Cloud provides, you now have all of this capability for this data to flow wherever your business processes need that data and need to be powered by that data. And of course, your trusted AI or any models that you're building to be powered by that data.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives and views on this. I hope that helped, Asad. Next question, we're going to get back to Prompt Builder. And the question is, for hydrating the prompt with unstructured data, how do you go about that?
For hydrating the prompt with unstructured data, um, I would be curious to know what the use case is that the person was thinking about, if they follow up in time when we're talking about it. But generally, the way Prompt Builder works is that when you ground with any resource that's available across platform, you can ground with Apex, Flows, as we mentioned, some of the Data Cloud entities, and your regular CRM fields as well. Some of those can have unstructured data, like for example, Data Cloud can bring in unstructured data from data graphs, for example, right? Now, that said, there's one other way we can look at this question is using semantic search or RAG. So imagine we have pages of PDFs, maybe contract information, or maybe chat transcripts, or phone call transcripts that you've had, and those have been recorded and transcribed. Now, that is all unstructured data. If you want to be able to search among that unstructured data and find relevant information, let's say you had a conversation with a customer and the customer talked about their budget constraint for a sales deal, and you want to be able to ground that information in like a follow-up email, for example, to refer to that budget constraint. What you can do is with semantic search, you can pull in the semantic search retriever and then provide the search query. And the search query will say, for example, customer's budget constraint. And then it will search against all of the chat transcripts that you've set up, for example, with search indexes in Data Cloud. And it'll then pull out the very relevant pieces of information that it found among all the vast treasure trove of unstructured information. And then that specific snippet will be grounded and hydrated into the prompt template. And then the language model will take over from there and use that information to give a human readable reply for that use case. Now, I'll mention one other thing is that the semantic search capability with unstructured data is more powerful than the keyword search capability that we're used to. So with keyword search, for example, when you go on Google, it matches the exact keyword from a document that is online, for example. With semantic search, what it's doing is it's not doing an exact keyword match. It is doing kind of like a meaning or a semantic-based match in between two sets of information, right? So it might find similarity between electrician and plumber, as being somewhat similar in that they do some household work or they can be hired on some platforms and so on, right? So you can type in kind of natural language queries, for example, and looking for the customer's budget constraint, or what was the customer's sentiment, or when did they share their complaint, and so on. And it can go across, hundreds of pages of unstructured information and be able to find semantic meaning for that query that you put in, and then pull in that very specific snippet, hydrate the prompt with that, and then send that to the language model along with your instructions to give that natural response back based on your use case. Hope that helps.
Thank you. And this is all GA, right?
Yes, all the semantic search capability has been GA for a few months.
Mhm. Fantastic. Thank you. That was a question from Bani Brata. Okay, so if we go to the next question, it's a question about packaging. I'm not sure we have the right people here today, but I will share it. And if not, Carol, because it was a question asked by Carol, there's going to be a kind of deploying data cloud, Ask Me Anything in, I think it's next month or in 2 months. Christy could say that in the chat. And in any case, I'm going to ask a question just in case you know the response, which is when we'll be able to include all these features in a single managed package for Data Cloud. And I think we're doing great improvements there. And I hope to see a lot of content at Trailblazer DX in which we cover all this. But again, I will let the experts respond.
Yeah, I can take a stab at that question again. I don't think I can cover the whole packaging aspect end to end, but just looking at it from the perspective of DataKit is the strategy for how you will package your DMOs, your identity resolutions, your all the data cloud related metadata, and you will package that in a DataKit. Now, this DataKit can be packaged as part of a single package that can get deployed, and there are certain enhancements that are happening to make sure that the those packages deploy with all the related metadata that's associated with it, and the user, it pretty much operates like a managed package in Salesforce, meaning that nobody's able to deselect a certain DMO for from installation, et cetera, those kind of things. The the slide that I showed showed that for example, a two package strategy. Some of the for data cloud enrichments, some of those things are still getting figured out as far as what is the best way for making sure that the sort of like the org based packages and code based packages both have we are able to figure out the holistic story of what that packaging looks like. And I think Alba, you also did a really good sort of talk some time ago about what are the differences between why you use one versus the other. But again, generally speaking, DataKit is the way to package data cloud metadata and deploy it to your either your production org, again considering Sandbox, or you can use a chain set to do that as well, or you can package in it as an ISV or a developer developing those kind of capabilities that are data cloud focused. You can package that in a single package. If you need to package certain other things that this DataKit will be used in, for example, core metadata or what we say platform metadata, then there are certain different kind of considerations that we are thinking through on as we speak. And some of this story is going to get matured now that Sandbox support is GA, and we are coming about as far as what should be the whole packaging strategy. Again, we are sort of flying the plane while building it. So some of these things get figured out as we go closer to having that whole story defined.
Good, good. Thank you very much for your response, Amrinder. I hope that helps. It was a question from, I lost the question. Sorry. It was from Emma, I believe. No, it was from Carol. Carol. Okay, so next question is, again, a generic question is about whether they should use or not Data Cloud for a specific use case. And the question is, how can I and should I use Data Cloud to keep a custom object in sync across two separate orgs? Both orgs need to have full read-write access to the object. Is it more or less performant than using change data capture of MuleSoft to keep both orgs in sync? Is a question from Dave Oldroyd.
Yeah, I think this is probably a question. Yeah, Diana, go ahead.
Yeah, in reading the question, I'm not quite sure if we're talking about two kind of CRM orgs, the two objects, and then going to Data Cloud as an in-between, or talking about syncing kind of like a DMO with a CRM object, because I think it might be slightly different based on that. I am not totally familiar about how MuleSoft's performance. I will say I know our Data Cloud triggered flows today, for folks using that use case, do run into performance issues at high scale. So a little bit of this depends on, are you talking about millions of batch records being updated at once? Are you talking about kind of keeping in sync with changes? Does timeliness matter, right? Is this sort of transactional and you want them to be as kind of real-time synchronized, or is a delay available? So I think all of those factors are gonna lead into what the correct or sort of best practice is going to be a lot of those different characteristics. But in general, I would say the flow ones, we're looking at making some of our Data Cloud trigger flows higher scale for some of these use cases to make those faster, if that's what we're talking about in terms of synchronizing Data Cloud with CRM. But it doesn't necessarily do everything today.
I can answer that question with one word, which is copy fill enrichment. Oh, it's two words actually. But again, if you're trying to synchronize full objects, full records from one CRM org to another CRM org, that's a different use case. We've not we don't have any like good solution for that right now. But if you are trying to synchronize a field on one custom object in one org, then you could do this, is that you can ingest that data, that CRM data, using CRM connector into Data Cloud, create a copy fill enrichment in the remote org, and then reference that field in the Data Cloud. In Data Cloud, again, we are basically mapping that field and use that FQK of that source or home org as your to define that relationship between the copy field in this line of business org where you're consuming it. Any data that gets changed in the home org, it's near real time gets copied over to Data Cloud and to the line of business org. And again, this is almost near real time as possible, again, without the need to actually create a custom flow or something. So copy field is sort of allows you to have like one-click creation of that kind of a thing. But again, full records, we really don't have a handle on that yet, because again, you need to figure out, I know there are certain customers who built these kind of capabilities on their side using Heroku Connect. Those kind of things I know of, but again, as far as a simple one-click solution, copy field allows you to do this specific thing. And that's what we talked about in the slide that I shared for how enrichments work in the line of business world.
Great. Thank you very much for the context. I'm showing a QR code with a video where you can learn more about enrichments. And I'm going to show one more, which is another video in which summer 24 updates for enrichments are also showcased. So take a look if you have some time and interest. Thank you for that question, Dave. We're going back to Prompt Builder again. And Emma is asking about recommendations for respecting user privilege, particularly field level security, for use cases leveraging data cloud, specifically retrieval augmented generation in Prompt Builder.
Sorry, could we repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is about what do you recommend to use, or if maybe you can explain how security works when you use retrieval augmented generation in Prompt Builder, like search retrievers and so on. How do you respect the user field level security, like the security that is set up in the org for field accessibility?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, we've definitely seen there's a need to have more robust security controls, especially in doing RAG. Currently, the way the security model works is we're able to secure based on the data space, which is not very granular. It's a little more broad to be able to secure based on the data spaces for the entities like search indexes and the DMOs. Beyond that, to be able to do role level security and field level security and maybe the object level security for the DMOs as well is something that is being designed and implemented right now. And this depends on the data cloud security model and how it's able to interact with the core security model that we're familiar with permission sets and profiles and the row level security and so on. And I think there is a lot of design work that's underway right now to be able to increase the robustness of the data cloud security model, and that will then cascade onto the retrievers and RAG security model as well. There is a couple of workarounds, that said, where there is going to be an ability to have something we call pre-filters. And pre-filters is where when you do the search operation, before the search operation executes, it can apply a filter. And the filter you can think of as the list view filters that we're familiar with. So you can say, for example, just using an example, if you have a knowledge article that's stored in a DMO, you can say knowledge article.region is equal to America or Europe or Asia. And if that filter is applied on the retriever, then only that data that's matching that that filter is going to be able to be searched when that retriever is used, right? So using pre-filters is a kind of a workaround to be able to specify some kind of field level security, because you can specify the field, the operator, and the value, and that retriever is now locked down to only respecting that that data. Now, this is not very personalized to every single user, and they're like maybe FLS security in core, for example, but that's what's being designed currently. Amrinder, did you have any other thoughts on the data cloud security model?
Yeah, so generally, I can talk about the security model a little bit. So the data governance is a concept that is now in closed beta, is now in open beta. As far as data governance is concerned, basically what's going to happen is that you're going to be able to create or define policies that apply, much lower in the stack. Essentially, what it's just a technical jargon. What that really means is that you'll be able to define policies based on if this user should have access to this field or not, or this object or not, or this record or not. So all those policies you can now define using data governance. And this will sort of like be the new paradigm that get introduced in data cloud pretty soon to a lot of customers. So you will be able to restrict certain fields, objects, records, depending on what your use case is. Now contrast that with the same concepts of ABAC in core or the Salesforce platform. These are sort of new constructs that we are introducing in the data cloud world. And this will allow you to be very fine grained on who has access to what. As far as, again, covering the whole gamut, CRM enrichments is concerned, we support a concept called control by parent, which is similar to how control by parent works in the platform, which is a simple way of giving coarse grain access to data cloud data to your Salesforce users. So you will have the option to use all of these concepts to be as restrictive as you want or as open and quick to set up as you want. So we have sort of options for both those kind of organizations. Some HIPAA-based organizations might go with the least access kind of a model. There are masking policies that you can introduce, those kind of things as well in data governance. Again, if you've not tried or signed up for the data governance beta, I'll highly recommend you do so as well. We are, enhancing all of our featured capabilities to support data governance in general in Data Cloud.
Great. Thank you so much for all your insights. And we're going to respond our last question before going. I'm going to pop up here again the Trailhead module for Data Cloud flows, because we didn't get a lot of questions for Data Cloud and flows today, but it's something super interesting that our developers should know. And I'm going to leave that on. Meanwhile, we respond our last question, which is again about prompt builder and unstructured data. And the question is, are there any end-to-end steps to configure unstructured data from AWS?
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a good question. So if you start with your data in AWS, you can set up a data stream, and that data stream can ingest the information that you have in AWS, and then you can harmonize that into data lake objects and then data model objects, and then you can build a search index on top of the data model object and a search retriever on that search index. And that's generally the pipeline to do any kind of RAG and semantic search operation. You start with the data source, you create a data stream from the connectors that we have in Data Cloud, and the data stream will go into a DLO, then a DMO, then a search index, which creates the vector representation of the DMO data, and then the search retriever on the search index. And the coolest part about the search retriever is that it is an interface between Data Cloud and all of the platform capabilities with Flow, as well as prompt builder and agents and so on, where it's very simplified, and the user of the retriever doesn't need to worry about all of the downstream stuff that the data architect has set up and how everything is working behind the scenes in Data Cloud. The search retriever simply takes a user query and gives you back the result for that search operation for that data that you're searching amongst.
Okay, hope that helped respond to the question, and Agrawal. Okay, so with that, let me share my screen again to share some final CTAs. So if you want to keep asking questions to our experts, you can do that on the Trailblazer Community Digital Platform. There is a Salesforce developers group, which is the link and QR code that I'm showing here that you can join. But there are also dedicated groups for Data Cloud, for AI, and for all the topics that you may like, that our experts and PMs are monitoring and taking a look at from time to time to help you with your queries. And with that, sorry for my alarm, I want to finish by thank you everyone today in the call. This was a super interesting Ask Me Anything session. Data Cloud is like very new product. There are a lot of uncertainties about it. We are releasing a lot of functionality, and our audience, I think it's really grateful to have these sessions. And I also want to thank all the product managers that we had here today. Thank you so much for investing the time in helping our audience. And I don't know if you want to say some final words.
No,
Thank you,
this was really great, Alba. Thanks for setting this up and being our guide in this journey in this AMA. This has been really insightful for me, and hopefully it's helpful for our learners or customers as well, and our developer community. Thanks for bringing us to this platform. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah. Do you want to say something, Minhaj?
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and please keep in touch and send us your feedback, any other questions through the online channels, and we're happy to take your feedback in designing the platform better.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.